to ask the next big question. What in the world are the games that are going on in Pakistan now? Nawaz Sharif, what a tumultuous career he's had. He was brought into politics by the army to take on Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. He is the one who had to bear the brunt of the Musharraf coup. Every other single prime minister in Pakistan has either faced corruption allegations, has been assassinated, or gone to jail and been killed. Nawaz Sharif, in exile in Britain, has been making so many allegations now. And guess what Imran Khan's comeback has been? He has accused Nawaz Sharif of working in cahoots with India, while at the same time saying that his relationship with the military has been the best in history. What does this now mean? Let's quickly open up this conversation. Joining us on the broadcast, I have Dr. Wahil Awad, Ambassador Suresh Kumar Goyal, Major General Gigi Dwivedi, as well as Sumit P joining us on the broadcast. General Dwivedi, what do you think is going on? What is Nawaz Sharif up to here?
Go back point in time, and since 1958, Army has been running the show in Pakistan, either in driver's seat or it was by proxy. So therefore, all the Prime Minister had their share of Army goodwill. They have been in the chair largely because of the courtesy of the Army. Now, what is going on now is a new phase in the civil-army relationship. Imran Khan was brought in, and he is well known as the selected Prime Minister rather than the elected Prime Minister because he came in because of the army and also because of the Taliban. Now he has taken this civil-military relationship to a different level. There was a time when it was known that Pakistan, there is a state within the state, but now there is a state on top of the state. The military is running the show. You see, it is Bajwa who is dealing with China.
But General Dwivedi, the reason I'm having this conversation is because last time around when the Benazir-Nawaz deal was done, when Musharraf exited, right? The Americans were intermediating that. They wanted a modicum of democracy back in Pakistan because it was becoming uncomfortable for them to go on backing a dictator in Pakistan for their own domestic reasons. This time, the Americans are unlikely to be mediating. The Chinese have a much more influence now at this point of time. Are the Chinese going to be mediating? I mean, do they give a mouse's behind on what is taking place in democracy in Pakistan?
Look, there is a deep relationship between PLA and the Pakistan Army. As long as PLA is happy with the general in Pakistan, the things are perfectly fine. Because the PLA runs the government in China as well. There is no difference between the PLA and the party. So therefore, as long as Bajwa is serving the interest of PLA, everything is fine.
He's fine. So I'm just wondering what is the game he's up to, because I don't think so much after all the allegations that you drove Nawaz Sharif into exile yet again on corruption grounds. You've had charges against his daughter who's going to be his political heir. At this point of time, suddenly as Imran Khan become expendable now, the army wants to get rid of him, General Dwivedi.
Yes, because army always uses these politicians, and when the use is over, they are thrown away. They have a person to back up. Rahil Sharif is one of the choice, and he is quite favorable with the army, and he will deliver once they get rid of Imran. I think they'll bring in an alternate, and they keep changing poster boys.
It might be another poster boy.
May be quite numbered.
Okay, Suresh Kumar Goyal, Imran Khan. I mean, what is when he says Imran Khan is saying, of course, Nawaz Sharif is in bed with India. Our relationship with the army is very good. It's kind of sounding desperate now.
Rishabh, you recall there was a meeting last week between the representative of Nawaz Sharif, Fazlur Rahman, and Zardari. I don't recall the location of the meeting, but the meeting was reported in the Pakistan media as well as internationally. And the meeting had actually accused Imran ruling the country with the support of army, of the military. Now, what Imran Khan is doing is that Imran Khan is actually responding to that kind of a charge because of the opposition getting together, and in the next election or whenever the election takes place, or with the help of the military, he is afraid of losing his power, and therefore that is a counter-offensive from Imran Khan to that allegation, saying that Nawaz Sharif is actually working in cahoots with India and army is actually with him. This is basically what he's saying, that army is not at all governing the country. And
Okay,
he
but
has
but
put that
Ambassador
enough.
Goyal, just a cursory examination. There is a full-faced rebellion happening in Balochistan. There is unrest in Gilgit-Baltistan. There is unrest even in Pashtunistan. There has been conversation that the army is grooming a person like Shahid Afridi, perhaps is the next phase. To get Mariam or do a deal with Bilawal and Mariam to basically make a bakra out of Imran because of the economy in shambles. There is a problem. They claim that they've handled COVID very well. We all know that they haven't. The Pakistani economy is far more troubled. They are in huge debt. The relationship with Saudi Arabia is in a historic low. Does Imran become will he be made to fall on his sword?
Well, I think here Imran is really on a very, very slippery ground here. I think essentially he is seeing that unless he gets a support, or he say, you mentioned Balochistan, you mentioned Baltistan, you mentioned all the trouble spots in Pakistan, and Imran has a real problem at economy included. So I think basically he's trying to cover the basis now and see that the military remains with him as a support base so that he can actually
which begs the question that has he outlived his usefulness? Dr. Wail Awad, has Imran Khan outlived his usefulness? That he was a senior in Oxford to Theresa May, the former British Prime Minister. He still has family and children living in the UK who are very influential people there. That sort of suave face to blunt the army and his dictatorship with the Europeans and the Americans. Has he outlived his usefulness?
It's too early to say that
Okay.
at the moment,
Okay.
because military will naturally see which way Imran goes and which way the opinions in Pakistan go.
Okay.
At the moment, the way I see, Nawaz Sharif, with the combine of Fazlur Rahman and Zardari, can prove to be a powerful combination.
Can prove to be a nuisance value, and of course, they just have to be a nuisance to open negotiations with the army. Dr. Vayalava, take the thought, sir.
Well, I think charging Nawaz Sharif with being with India is a very immature saying by a prime minister of a country. At least I would have expected the prime minister to be more, wise in his words, especially in the total interview I've been watching it. And in fact, when I noticed that there are 2-3 issues in his statement. One is the accusation against Nawaz Sharif, who is known for his political career, and he is new. If you compare Imran Khan to Nawaz Sharif, he has no ground to stand with Nawaz Sharif. Understand the army, he understand the politics of Pakistan. He is in this industrialist, and he understands everything, every part of Pakistan. I am sure he had a good relation with Indian Prime Minister, but remember the next time meeting was denied for Nawaz Sharif after the happening in Jammu and Kashmir. So there is no question of linking this issue. The second issue, which I think from his talk, was the Gilgit-Baltistan elections, and accusing India of rift between fitna or sedition between Sunni Shia was, take me back to understand that this is a very vague kind of a statement as well, to speak a lot of what's happening in Pakistan itself and not to accuse India of such kind of a rift. Why India has to go all the way to Pakistan when they can do it inside India if they have to do it? So therefore, there is no question of these two issues. So therefore, I think we are living in an era where we see the leaders of many countries, including Trump and his Joe Biden, that we have seen low esteem kind of politics nowadays, where we don't see the topics and the seriousness and the challenges facing the country should be taking in a more serious issues rather than.
It begs the question. I began with, sir. Imran Khan are we reaching game over time?
Well, no, I don't think so. Imran Khan is very much in cohesion with the army, and in fact, he himself said that the economy of Pakistan is linked to China now. So they are understanding that the PLA and the Chinese and the Pakistani army understand that all their future economy is lying with China. So therefore, I think there is no question of his removal.
Okay, I want to come and talk about the likes of a Shahid Afridi as a disruptor, and of course Bilawal and Mariam in this case. Sumit Peer, what's the gamesmanship here that we should look at it? Because the economy, of course, is in a shambles. I mean, to the point that the army, which controls 10% of Pakistan's private sector as it is through the Fauji Corporation, has been holding meeting with industrialists on the economy because it's in a hellhole. Foreign exchange crisis. I mean, I can't have more conversations of what the hellhole it is. Pakistan is a bankrupt country. The Saudis even want their money back from Pakistan. The Chinese are only going to spend so much money here. At what point of time does Imran become a sitting duck? Lame duck, or rather.
Rishabh, if you look at you got a brilliant point, and I just wanted to add on to that. You see this meeting, if you go through the complete interview, what he talked about, it is a political disaster, and there's a lot of, there's a lot of admissions which are settled in the interview. The first thing he says, now the Prime Minister of Pakistan clearly says that the political decision making in Pakistan is done with the army. That is the first takeaway. Then he says that the opposition leaders met Bajwa because he wants army to apprise them of the situation in Gilgit-Baltistan because they have institutional experience and they can do better than him. Then he acknowledged there is a problem in Gilgit-Baltistan and China's CPC runs through Gilgit-Baltistan. Then he also acknowledged that we have not been able to meet the demands of people of Gilgit-Baltistan, and that is a arrest there. Then what Dr. Nawaz rightly said, then he talks about there's a Shia-Sunni divide which India is trying to encash in. Then he also, goes back and says that within all these things happening, he is now trying to, this Imran and army combo has failed to deliver. What they're trying to find a scapegoat who is Nawaz Sharif, staying in London, try to pin all the problems, all the disasters on Nawaz
What can they pin? I mean, Nawaz Sharif is not a fool. Sumit, he's played this game and he's still alive, right? He's played this game and he's still alive, then he knows how to play the game, right? So in this case, if he decided that given the exile, given the health concerns, given the conviction of his daughter, that he is going to choose this time to line up Bilawal, to line up Fazlur Rahman, obviously the army is well aware of, or perhaps in cahoots with what Nawaz Sharif is doing.
Correct. I think you see, Rishabh, the three more important points he says. He says that Indian think tanks are suggesting that we should break up Pakistan into 4 parts. He says now for a united Pakistan, the biggest threat is India. So you're trying to get India, you're trying to get Nawaz Sharif into the picture and skip the attention to a third person. It's like what you say in management, identify a common enemy and move the attention there and get the national sentiment behind you. You're hiding your collective failures as a combo. Imran and army is not able to deliver. So identify a common problem.
Okay.
Talk about your neighbor helping him.
What is the risk here? What is the risk here, General Dwivedi, that this is all army created tamasha to keep the people of Pakistan busy? That you keep them busy. Nawaz ne ye kaha, फिर Mariam को यहाँ लेके गया. It's all tamasha going on to keep them busy.
Absolutely, because that's how the Pakistan army has fooled the people, because they have always posed India as an existential threat, and that's why they are in the position of power. But I like to bring, Rishabh, 2 very important points. Firstly, role of the army. Role of the army today has become encompassing. It is in the economy, it's in political. Initially, they used to only decide defense and foreign policy. Today, they are deciding the economy, they are deciding the political issues. And secondly, role of China. Role of China has increased so much with the CPEC coming today. It is being economically driven. And on this issue, PLA and the Chinese, and Pakistani army and the government of China are on the same page. So therefore, Pakistan army has always played and fooled the people by painting a false narrative, and that's exactly they're doing. But I wish to highlight that Pakistan army is the most corrupt army. Their chiefs have this extended tenure 6 years. They have palatial properties in Pakistan, in England, and also lately Kiani has gravitated to Australia. So
Australia, I mean in Shanghai, in Dubai, and of course in London, which all the Pakistanis are like. But General Dwivedi, what is the role here of Mariam Bilawal, as well as this a strange mix that the army is propping up a person like Shahid Afridi?
Well, Afridi, I think, is one of the shadow players, but I feel Rahel Sharif is the main player. He may be as a backup. But see, the political parties really know that until they come together, they cannot face either the army or Imran Khan. So it is a compulsion. They have to put their differences away and come together, and Bilawal, Mariam, all these people actually have one agenda to get the Imran government out. later on they may be quite
Okay,
comfortable. with
everybody
army.
will have to do a deal. We don't see the sign, do we, Ambassador Goyal, of some sort of popular revolution happening in Pakistan. Whether it's Bilawal, whether it's Mariam or Afridi. Afridi doesn't have a political backing, so he'll have to be an army man all the way. But Mariam and Bilawal, they will also have to do a deal with the army. So they are clearly cooking up something.
Well, at the moment, really speaking, my sense would be that army, of course, will be a huge factor in whatever happens next in Pakistan. But I don't. If army were to basically want to play a direct role in the governance, that they would have done that by now. Really speaking, they basically would want to have a weak partner in the government who they can control. And I think at the moment, Imran is serving the purpose very well. At the same time, the Chinese are very comfortable with the Chinese are very comfortable with the Pakistani military, and the combination of Imran, Pakistani army, and the Chinese, I really don't see them going away so soon. This was a response to something which came by the opposition parties trying to come together. And my sense is that it is going to
Ambassador, but if the situation in Gilgit-Baltistan gets worse, and most of us are expecting it to get worse.
I think that if it happens, then military will play a more direct role. You will recall that, in fact, Bajpa has already been given the chance to talk to people there in Gilgit-Baltistan on the plea of security. And I think the military will play an increasing role, but that is how that is going to remain.
What is the usefulness left of Imran Khan if things in Gilgit-Baltistan become uncontrollable, Dr. Vailavad?
I don't think it will be uncontrollable because it is the army who called the shots. So the rule of the political leader is to ensure that this has been, the law and order has been achieved, and he can supervise. But the army will always have the upper hand. So therefore, there is no question about it. I think what is the resentment among the Kyrgyz, the people and GP and also in Balochistan is because there is lack of equal distribution of the wealth for these people, and they have been deprived of all the money and all the resources rich in those regions. So therefore, there is now the Chinese, where this part of the Jammu and Kashmir will play a major role in the road corridors, the economic corridor to Pakistan. So therefore, there will be a sort of a resentment, there will be a demonstration, and the army definitely will suppress this kind of opposition to this kind of bonding between the PLA and the army of Pakistan.
Are they looking for, Dr. Vailavad, would the Pakistani army just be creating enough of a crisis to ensure that political instability becomes a constant factor in Pakistan so that they have nothing to worry about?
So I think polarization in Pakistan politics and the political discourse is already have received a very low esteem with accusing anti-national, anti-states for the political leaders, and rather than focusing on the role of the army. And I think the army will continue to play this card as long as the civilian government does not open the Pandora box of the corruption in the army. Therefore, there is a $62 billion from the Chinese will play a major role in also filling the pocket of those army officers.
Correct.
So therefore, there has to be, accountability and transparency in the Pakistanis establishment. If the Imran Khan has to survive, he has to understand that he has come on the card of anti-corruption, and if he does not fulfill these wishes, I think he will be his days will be numbered.
Okay, are they safe as far as they are concerned, General Jidit Dwivedi? Do if you're sitting in Bajpa's position and you've now gone through the Supreme Court, slight irritation and secured your extension of term. We know that he's grooming the current General of the 10th Corps to be his replacement once he retires 3 or 4 years from now. In the context with the relationship that they have with China, does the army feel that they've secured themselves for the next 10 years and no one in Pakistan will be able to dare lift a finger?
Army will always ensure that they're secure not only for 10 years, for next 50 years, because that is the game plan. They will ensure that political system in Pakistan never becomes strong and always at the mercy of the army. But one issue I like to bring out, Rishabh, you see, Gilgit-Baltistan and Xinjiang, they share the border. And it will be, quite, I can expect that there will be PLA's boots on the ground in Gilgit-Baltistan area and also in Gawada. because these two ends are very important for China and the PLA, and therefore I feel there will be collusion between the PLA and the Pakistan army to control the issues in Gilgit-Baltistan and also possibly
if
in
they try,
Balochistan
General
and Swat.
Dwivedi, if they try to do something similar in Gilgit-Baltistan to what they've done in Xinjiang, can we be silent spectators?
No, not at all. We must raise a lot of hue and cry, and even see, Chinese are looking at Gilgit-Baltistan as a stable area. We should ensure that there is no stability, and we should tell the world that this is our territory annexed by Pakistan, and this cannot be given away, and we must keep the issue on the boil. And
Including the fact that Chinese boots
army
come on the
have
ground, and many people say they're already on the ground. Sumit Peer, there has been a distinct change in how we are approaching this. We are not honestly engaging. We have I would say a mid-level diplomat who responds to Pakistan's charges. But if you look at the PM speech at the UN, not a single word on Pakistan. India has decoupled its diplomacy from its obsessive compulsive nature, rotating around Pakistan for a long period of time now, and you can see the realization on it. But what would be the point in Gilgit-Baltistan which will be too much and would require us to take a very, very stringent position?
I think when you look at the Pakistan issue, whole issue, Rishabh, that there's a window to act. Unfortunately, that window is reducing with every passing day. Now, Gilgit-Baltistan today, if you see even the statement of the outgoing chief minister, he said Imran Khan has sold the sovereignty to Chinese. That is what the outgoing chief minister says. People are unhappy. Imran Khan acknowledges in his interview people are unhappy. Now, if China tries to intervene and Pakistan takes their help, that will be the tipping point where we must go and do that, because Gilgit-Baltistan will open our access to Central Asia, or the Persia, what we call. That is a very important piece for us. With our growing stature, we need to have our access to Central Asia and Persia, which China and Pakistan combo is trying to stop us. But we should not miss this opportunity. If there's a direct Chinese intervention there, that will beg for Indian direct intervention before it gets too late.
I've just got a couple of minutes left.
TP will be the first province, Rishabh.
Ambassador Suresh Kumar Goyal, for I think too long, the Chinese themselves have thought, and perhaps we have fallen into their own vision of themselves, that they can play this game better than everyone. The reality is the Americans spent 20 years trying to figure out Afghanistan. 20 years. And like it or not, they've ended in failure. The Soviets tried to figure it out before that. Great power dynamics don't play out as obviously that, if the army is being bought out by us, simple as that, everything in Gilgit-Baltistan is therefore under control. When stuff starts hitting the fan for these guys, what should we be worried about, and what should be the opportunity that presents itself for us?
Rishabh, what you have said is a very extremely worrisome possibility. The point is that because CPEC passes through Gilgit-Baltistan, it's clear that in case of any instability, the PLA will assume a direct role, or the Chinese security will try to take over the security of their project in Pakistan. When that happens, any intervention by India would bring in a direct confrontation with PLA on Pakistani soil. Now, that's a very dangerous situation. The only thing that I can say is that neither the UK nor any other foreign power have been able to control the Central Asia. And I think it may very well prove to be a difficult situation for the PLA to be in Gilgit-Baltistan and face the mountaineers, the rebellion there from the people. But I would be very, very wary of the Indian army going directly into Gilgit-Baltistan at this stage.
Okay. No, that's true. That's true. But that's a conversation we will have to have at some point of time. Yes. But obviously having that conversation right now is about building the pressure. We perhaps don't need to send in the army. There's enough happening internally in Gilgit-Baltistan that requires our moral and diplomatic support, certainly. Sumit, I'm just going to come to you in a second. Dr. Vailawat, for the Chinese who are perhaps thinking that they've got a grip on Gilgit-Baltistan, on the Pamir Mountains, potentially on the Wakhan corridor into Afghanistan, that they have a better understanding of how to handle the Taliban than the Americans or the Soviets before them. You think a reality check is coming their way?
Well, I think, it is a time where you pay money. Capitals, you pay and you own the capital, you own the political decision in this part of the world because of the austerities, because of COVID-19, because of poverty. All these measures will always play a major role when you pay money. Therefore, even when the Chinese went to Afghanistan, they were carrying money to please the Taliban and the government of Afghanistan in the easing the situation and securing that this corridor will be extended to Afghanistan. So I think money matter will play, but the future of this region depends mainly on the people of the region, whether they accept this kind of atrocities and this kind of polarization and denying of their rights and freedom. I think that's the issue should be.
Well, I think
and
the Chinese are about to learn the same bitter lesson that the Americans, who also pumped in a lot of money to all sorts of players. First they pumped in money to the Taliban, then they pumped in the money to the Northern Alliance, then they pumped in the money to the government in Kabul. Didn't make it work. They had every weapon in the world. They had NATO backing them, at least some countries putting even boots on the ground, and look how that ended up. Sumit Peer.
I can just give you
go ahead,
point
Dr.
here.
Vaid.
Rishabh, I don't agree on the notion that the United States failed in Afghanistan. The United States had an objective in Afghanistan to make it a failed state and to bring back instability in this part of the world. It is China, it is India, it is Pakistan, it is Russia which is targeted. And I don't think the Americans they are looking for winning or losing a war. They are just creating a chaos and then managing the crisis.
Yeah, well, I think from the American point of view, as long as there is no threat to the mainland US of A from Afghanistan, they'll think that they've done their job. Sumit Peer, eventually, if the Chinese were thinking they're playing this great game, when push comes to shove, are we expecting them very rapidly to be learning the same bitter lessons that other great powers have learned in this area?
I think, Rishabh, when it comes to Afghanistan, the fact remains nobody except Genghis Khan could win Afghanistan on the planet Earth because he was more brutal than anybody on earth. He was a barbarian, the king of barbarians. So if Chinese think with their money and with their soft power and with a useless PLA was not fought for 40 years and with those 70-year-old generals, they can control Afghanistan and the Afghan tribes and all, it doesn't work. The money does not work in Afghanistan. So they are mistaken. They are sadly mistaken. This piece of land is going to cost them their might, pride, and everything what they have never thought of. So it's better they get out of it and leave the territory.
Okay. We have to be tracking developments in Gilgit-Baltistan very, very carefully, which of course we have been on this channel.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.